Good evening and welcome. I'm Bob Pace, your host, and I'm here to fight CPS and to stop taking our children. That's right, CPS does take our children, so you got to be heads up on it. I've been involved in a CPS case for 3 years, but actually it's been 15 years since I fought them. My first 5 years, when I lost my job through no fault of my own, I was constantly harassed by a layperson calling in who happened to be my in-laws, my wife's sister and her family and her brother and everything were calling up, making up stories that were not true. And for 5 years, I fought them off. But then they got tricky. They got the aid of a detective, and they tricked me into bringing me back to my house. And They end up stealing three of my young children. I have six children. I'm a loving father. The three older children were all grown up and having lives of their own, so they weren't affected too much by this. But then my three younger children were trafficked into foster care, and then my daughter was convinced and brainwashed into um, to divorce her mom and dad and brother and uncles and cousins and everybody. So she emancipated from us family, and then she changed her name, and then she sealed her birth certificate and got adopted by foster care. This is all at the guidance of the social worker who was revenge against me because I had hired an attorney who was Vincent W. Davis. And during the cross examine, he asked her, was there any domestic violence in the home of my wife's sister wanted to adopt our daughter? And she said, oh, no, they're great parents. Well, then Mr. Davis pulled out all these police reports and made her look bad. And suddenly she told us that she's going to, retaliate. You never see her daughter again. And thank you, Forrest. Wendy, thank you for coming in. You're an early charm here, and I love the hearts. I love the emotes. This is a hard thing for me to talk about my case, but I'm here to help you. I'm a loving man. And as I say, I have six children, and then I have a wife of 32 years. And so I want all of you to know that I do care about you. I know what you've gone through. I know how traumatic it is to see your family broken up. And it's all because we got a corrupt agency, a rogue agency. The Child Protection Service is not your friend. But I do welcome you. I'd like to get a hold of a couple of my regulars in this room and text them that I'm on. The notifications sometimes take 10 or 15 minutes for it to appear on Facebook. That's where you found me, is on Facebook. Now, I'm contacting the first one here is Natalie. She's from West Hollywood. And she's been struggling as a parent too. She's in West Hollywood, California. We have our first caller, Faye Manley, and she's one of the other people I was trying to get a hold of, and she's in Richmond, Kentucky. Good evening, Faye, and welcome.
I was just calling to see what was going on with the podcast.
Well, what was going on is that I've lost my energy. I haven't been paid in 10 days, so it's really hard. It's really hard with no food. I mean, the little bit of food I do eat, I just had a little difficulty getting on. But I'm on. And I was just getting ready to notify you. I was just texting you that I'm live and to please come on and join us. We have someone already, Forrest Wendy.
Okay.
And I have no idea where she's from. She just came on and started talking. She started off with three hearts, which I thought was awful nice. And she said, I feel your pain. I was talking about my family, what it went through. And then she says she has 3 children taken from me at birth here in Michigan. So she had 3 children. I don't know if she had triplets or one at a time, but all her 3 children were taken at birth. The older ones were already put in foster care. Okay, maybe 1 child was taken from her birth, and the 2 other ones were already put in foster care in 2016. So Forrest must have a first case, I guess, here. Following births were 2016, 2018, 2020. My youngest daughter was placed with a relative in 2020, but I've had no contact with my daughter or cousin since 2021. That's terrible. That is so terrible that your cousin would do that. The caseworker was called by the hospital in 2016, 18, and 20. I assume they were called because you tested positive in your drugs. Were drugs the reason why they took your children away? And also, Forrest, if you could tell me, what city and state you're from, that would be great. Now, there's several ways to interact with this podcast. One way is just be in the podcast listening, and that's great. And I want to welcome you all being in the podcast for listening. The second way is to express comments. So if you have something you like to say, it's very important that your comments pertain to CPS questions. I know there's a lot of topics out there to talk about, but this is the room or the forum for it. And so we are here to talk about how you can get your children back, what you did right or wrong in CPS and your case, and try to help every one of you. I'm not an attorney, but I'm a loving dad that loves family, and I want to help you with the mistakes that I made and help you get your children back. Also, please show me your name, city, state, or country. And the reason why I say country is because I have about 13 countries that have called in. Recently, I had some other ones too. Bangladesh is one that is really far apart. And then there next to it is New Delhi, India. And then we hop over to Africa. And in South Africa, I had a province call in. And then above South Africa, I had Mozambique, which is opposite the Madagascar Islands on the east coast of Africa and southern Africa. And then I had next to Lake Victoria, Rwanda. Rwanda was a horrible, horrible experience in the 1990s where 1 million people were terminated. And on top of the 1 million people, 400 females were raped. I think children too. And that is a big problem there. So I want to tell you that from there we went to North Africa to Liberia, and that is a coastal town on the west coast of Africa, North Africa. And he has a guy named Archie that calls in every so often and talks about the scouts and what he does with them, and he likes to listen for that. I need to catch up with the people that have texted in. We had Faye join us. Forrest Wendy, we still don't know where she's from, but her children were taken away because something she'd done in the hospital. Wow, she's grown to more children. From 5 children, she now has 7 still in foster care. Does that mean you have 12 children, Forrest? Recently, my 15-year-old daughter contacted me in 2023, shortly before the children 2023, telling me that she had been adopted. She lives in Detroit, so you must be in Michigan. I lived here all my life, and I can only say I hate this state. That's so sad. I mean, people are born in the state, and they live there, and they love their state, but it's like Faye will tell you, Faye is in a horrible, corrupt state of Kentucky. She has a beautiful home, and she's trying to get her son as a guardianship. He's an older boy, 23, and he has a lot of issues, and she has a big responsibility to take care of him. She lost her daughter because she was put by the social service to pick her son or her daughter, and that was sad. And she was in foster care all her young life. 5 times she was in foster care. She experienced it all: the abuse, the molestation, the rape, all the stuff that you hear about. She can tell you firsthand. It's all true. It's all bad. And anyway, she is on the phone. She's willing to answer any questions or talk about any issues. I'm still going how they interact, and I'm dealing with Forrest Wendy. Now, besides, we never finished it. After Africa, we go to Europe, and it's England, Scotland, Wales, the United Kingdom, and then Denmark and Sweden. I was surprised to get something from Denmark and Sweden, because you think they are really good with their kids and stuff, but they text in. And then across the pond, North America had Canada on both coasts have text messages in several times. I've had all the 50 states, including Washington, D.C., Maine, Hawaii, that have text messages in for help. So, and I've talked to over 500 people, and the general consensus is that CPS is corrupt. They're a rogue agency that's gone bad. And all they do is they think about the $80 billion business that they're doing. In my case, my children were taken by the Orange County CPS, Child Protection Services, and they were paid by the state of $20,000 per child. That's $60,000 per month. It's all about money. It's all about money. That's all CPS wants. They don't care about elders. They don't care about parents. They don't even care about seniors. It was really, 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 really bad. So I'm telling you, you got to be heads up dealing with this agency. They're really bad. All 50 states, and then we dropped down to Mexico. And I had a father call in about his daughters in Louisiana. And with his daughters in Louisiana, he asked for help too. And then we go across the Pacific to the land down under, and that is Australia. So that's a well-versed of people I've had from countries. Now, it's important you're complete with your case. Try to tell me what kind of family structure you have. Are you a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, lovers, partnership? Are you a single parent? Also, are the kids' parents the same parents, or do they have different fathers, different mothers? What is the arrangement of your family? That's kind of so I understand your situation. Do you have 11 kids, 15 kids, 3 kids? Are they girls or all boys? And what the situation? So once you identify what kind of a family you have, then I'd like to hear what the allegations were. And, was it neglect or abuse or both? And the details of the allegations of abuse. And then on top of that, I like to know about the children as far as, are they all girls or all boys or half and half? Are they special needs? So you can be very complete with your case, so I don't have to play ping pong ball, because I'll ask you a question, you answer, and it goes back and forth, and it'll take a long time. Also, put down what you were charged with, neglect or abuse or both, in the details. And then I need to know where you're at on your case. So all that is being complete with your CPS case. If you tell me all those things, it goes smoother, questions are answered more easier, and so forth. So comments are the second thing we interact with the podcast. First is by listening, second by comments, and then what I want to do is look at the third thing, which is be a guest on my podcast. And to be a guest on my podcast, all you have to do is contact our show producer. Her name is Grace. She works very hard behind the scenes. And she knows how to do the podcast and helps me keep in line and so forth. She'll assist you to get on the show as a guest. She'll tell you what to do, what you can't do, like no smoking or eating during the show. and that no usage of names and so forth. But she'll explain all that. Now, she'll give you the link to StreamYard, which is the application I'm using on YouTube. And so she'll show you how to link, and then you'll be able to talk just like I'm talking next to me, and we can help other people. So please be our guest. All you have to do is email her at grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And I have that right now shown on my screen. So it's grace@vincentwdavis.com. Now I need to catch up because I see we have some more comments that have come in. They're all from Forrest. She's trying to explain her case there. I got to go back to about 7:49. I'm here in Detroit, Michigan. I live here all my life. I honestly say I hate the state. Yeah, we heard that. And then Forrest Wendy says the state of Michigan CPS department charged me with deplorable housing condition. Although we're living in a fairly new home, I was grieving the loss of my mother and wasn't keeping the children up. Anyway, we weren't afforded services or help. I was told to surrender my children to the court on January 26, 2016. Our bonds have been totally destroyed by these people. I agree there. Hello, Natalie. You must have got my notification. Welcome, Natalie. Natalie's from West Hollywood. And we have Faith, who's from Richmond, Kentucky, on the phone. A neighbor called me in January 2016 after an argument. That was her revenge on me. In 2020, I discussed with the caseworker about a domestic abuse situation, and she used it against me. I have 3 sons and 5 daughters, so she has 8 kids now. She started off with a couple, and then she had 7, and now she has 8. Okay. Neglect was also mentioned on the paperwork in 2016 with the older children. And then she further says, my rights were terminated in 2019 with my oldest 7. My youngest daughter was placed in emergency placement with a relative after the domestic abuse situation rose. I'm still doing ways of interacting, and the 4th way to interact with this podcast is to call in, and that's my phone number, 626-698-0990. That's my office number. You can call in. It's Vonage, and I will take the call and put you on speaker so you can hear and talk about anything you want to talk about. So, and I can ask Faye if she will let someone else on if someone wants to call. Otherwise, Faye, stay on the line because maybe there's something that you can help me out with there. So the 4 ways is to be in this podcast. That's 1. 2 is to text a comment. And 3 is to be scheduled as a guest. Your 4th way is to call in. And again, that number is 626-698-0990. Okay, that now concludes about how they're interacting with the podcast. Now, there are several things I can take. I can talk about my case, or I can talk about the 120 some tabs I got opened about all kinds of things like the Indian Child Welfare Act, ICWA, or I can talk about the 388 motion to have a hearing. Anyway, I have lots of topics I can talk about. I can talk about my rules. I have 4 rules that I'd like you all to at least listen to. Whether you follow them or not, it's your choice. But I didn't follow my rules, and I wish I had done so. My case was awful. It got worse as time went on. So is there anything you'd like me to cover, Faye, or talk about?
No, I was just going to say something. So the United States Department of Health and Human Services is the daddy company over all of social services in all the United States. Okay, that's who their department is under, who they get paid through. And I was reading on here about their fiscal year budget and how much they're paid, and how much money they pull in annually.
80,
and it says
80
that
billion.
they pull in 144.3 billion in this annually, and then discretionarily 1.7 trillion.
Wow. Trillion? I haven't heard that at all. I've heard 80 billion, but not trillion.
Now, 144.3 billion, and then in discretionary 1.7 trillion.
Oh,
and that was in 2024, so it's probably more now.
And that was after. I mean, that number you gave me is more than 80 billion.
Yeah.
Well,
this is on U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS.gov.
Now, do they have any mechanism where you can file a grievance against the CPS system?
I would yeah, they do, but I don't know what good that would do. You could try it and see, but I doubt it would go anywhere.
Well, I don't know if anybody's ever tried that, but it's at the national level, right?
Yeah, they're over all of social services in the whole United States.
Now, are they including the other part of social services where they give you clothing and schooling and food and medical and all that?
It's all social services. So it's the branch that takes kids away, for protection. It's all types of social services. Yeah. So it's combined, everything that's offered. They pull in, $1 trillion a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Now, do they have a board of directors or supervisors?
Well, yeah, of course.
Well, I don't know. I mean, right now, the people at the state level, they don't have a board.
Right, but this is like the United States Department of Justice. This is another big government. I can't get the word out. Good grief.
Is it maybe a presidential appointment? Is there an office called the Human and Welfare? What's it called again?
It's U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Okay.
It's a well-known government entity. I don't know. I can't get the words out tonight for some reason.
It's all right. So it's an entity that is at the federal level. Do they have a phone number or an address you can contact them?
Yeah, you just have to go on the website.
Okay.
And it has all the information on there. It has menu. You just pull up menu. It has all the information. It has where they're located and all that. Fax number, phone numbers, and all of that on there. But yeah, I was just reading on here because that is the branch where all of the CPS agencies get their salary. It's where they get paid through.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you found that. To all the listeners out there, that looks like that's where the buck stops.
Yeah, it says contact HHS, and then you just hit that, and it tells you how to contact them. But I don't perceive really that, getting very far, because like in our counties and states where we live, when we complain to the ombudsman's office, which was primarily underneath of the Children and Family Services office, it's like them investigating themselves. So that would kind of sort of be like the same thing. But I mean, I guess you could try it and see. Can't hurt anything.
No.
You know, the more you write your grievances and your complaints, there's a paper trail. You know, and that's a good thing to have a paper trail. You know, especially if it comes down to having a lawsuit.
I have a question to ask Forrest. Maybe you have some question too. Forrest Wendy, I assume that name may be the husband wife, but I understand your allegations. Your children are taken. Did you have an attorney? Do you have a court-appointed attorney, or did you have an attorney you hired? Forrest Wendy, have you been following what she said there, Faye?
I can't see her comment.
You only do it when I'm told you. Okay.
Yeah, I can't see it.
Well, she said that she was charged with deplorable housing condition, and she was going through the loss of her mother. She had a new home, but she wasn't keeping the children up. So she admit that there's some things that they found, but they should also try to help and have her do services that would help her and reunify the family. Now, Forrest Wendy, you're in the hospital. What were you diagnosed? Was it drugs to your child? Forrest Wendy, are you still there? I don't know if she's still there or not. Forrest Wendy, if you'd like to talk, you can call in. If you wanted to keep texting, that is fine too. Natalie, you're out there. You have anything you like to mention tonight, Natalie? Are you hearing me okay? Am I loud enough? Faye?
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you, but I'm on the phone, so.
Well, true, but Natalie, can you hear me out there? Is there anything you'd like to talk about? Or Forrest Wendy, you'd like to call in and talk about your case and maybe answer some questions and see how we could help you? Well, I'm glad you shared with me that federal organization, because at least we have some place we can still turn to. I was at the point where I thought the only way we can change anything or fix anything is go before Congress. And that's a hard task to do.
Right.
Getting a senator or representative to listen to you and take on your case is very difficult, because they have to go before their constituents and notify all of Congress what they have found out, and then they have to, hopefully they'll support him or her.
Yeah.
It is a terrible, it's really hard, because you think about it, there's 50 states, there's 2 senators each state, and it varies with representatives, but all those people, make up the Congress, and they're the ones that can make the changes to our government.
Right.
And that's who we have to do the change. I know that we as a group here are kind of small, and we're more concerned about how to get your kids back than trying to change everything. Well, I guess Natalie is busy off somewhere, and Forrest has found something else, I guess. But it's just you and me now, Faye.
There's nobody else on there?
Well, there is lots of people, but they're not saying anything.
Oh, okay.
I have Marbil Valenzuela and Patricia Odell. Don't know those two. And then I have, let me see here. I have about 10 people, but it's you, Forrest, and Natalie, the ones that said anything. And it's Sunday night, and I know that people are probably tired. It's late on the East Coast, so.
Yeah.
And my show is going later, as you see, because
Right.
I have about 30 minutes left of my show. Man, I must really started late. Jeez.
Yeah, it was about 30 minutes late.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Well,
I was worried. I was
yeah.
like, well, I called. I was like, I hope he's okay.
Well, I'm glad you called because I wasn't okay. It's I don't want to talk about negative things on the show, but after 10 days, you get really hungry. You can almost eat your shoelace or something.
Right.
I heard of people eating leather products, so.
Oh my gosh. Well, don't do that. You'll get your pooper stopped up.
Ooh, that sounds terrible. Good grief. That's all I need to. Why don't you feed me those mosquitoes? Can you put them in a
Oh
lunchbox
no,
and
that's
send them
horrible.
to me?
No.
I just really, or send me your hot dog in a
Hey,
box.
spaghetti with wieners is good. Okay, it's good.
Yeah, I know it is. I know it is.
Don't knock it till you've tried it.
I understand. I understand. But anyway, we had some excitement with the Forrest Wendy from Detroit, Michigan, but they kind of died off a little bit there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk about my 4 rules. Those are pretty easy, straightforward. Rule 1 is the most important one, I say, and that's why it's ranked number 1. You got to get yourself an attorney. Now, I'm not saying I'm against court-appointed attorneys, but I do need to share you this information. Court-appointed attorneys are barely hanging on to fight your case. They have a caseload of 30 more clients, so they're not going to have much time for you.
Plus, and they get paid the bare minimum to do your case.
They get paid the fair minimum. They probably don't have the expertise of fighting CPS. And on top of that, they're friends with the court, friends with the judge, friends with the children attorneys, friends with the social worker attorneys. They play golf and have lunch and stuff like that. So you got to keep in mind, there's a lot of attorneys in that courtroom. You know, you got your children's attorneys. So if you have 6 kids, that's 6 attorneys. Then there's a husband, wife, and that's 7, 8 attorneys. And then you got social services, the CPS workers. There may be 2 or 3 in there, and they each got their own attorney.
Well, in my state, in Kentucky, there's only 1 attorney, no matter how many children.
Yeah, in California, they gave 1 for each of my 2 boys and my daughter. It was terrible.
Wow.
And there were court-appointed attorneys. That's another thing. If you want real attorneys, you got to pay them yourself. You got to hire. So as a bare minimum, I would have had to hire 5 attorneys. 1 for me, 1 for my wife, and 3 for the children.
Well, you've had to have been a millionaire to do that.
Well, shoot. I sold my house. It was worth millions, but then it's all gone. Natalie woke up. Yay, Natalie. She said golf with a question mark. I don't know where you got golf, Natalie. You like sometimes.
Because you said they play golf together, the attorneys and the judges.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. What they do is they go out and play golf. That's how they're friends and palsy wowsies.
And they go to the same country clubs together, too.
Yeah. Looks like DCS needs to pay attention to golf. Oh, Natalie's always so full of comical things. Yes, the appointed attorney. And then she says, hi, Faye. Well, Natalie, is there something you like to talk about? Faye just talked about the National Organization for Social Services, that there is still hope. There's a national organization you could send a grievance to. We don't know if it'll work, but there is a national office. So I got to learn on that. After I hang up with Faye here and everybody, I'm going to go look that up and see what that agency is all about. Anyway, going back to my rule number 1, we have an attorney here. Okay, hold on a second here. Yeah, good. We're still connected here, Faye.
Yeah.
That
Did
is
somebody
good.
try to call in?
No, it was a personal call. We don't need to do personal business right now.
Oh, okay.
I just tell them.
Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm just amazed, like over the last several months here in my state, of all the doctors and these drug testing labs and rehabs, for addicts and police officers are all being, investigated for like fraud and all kinds of things. Officers for like violating, policies, and it's just crazy. In just this state alone, how many people in positions like doctors, and counselors and police officers that are being arrested.
Yeah. The police, they're so corrupt.
We're having a lot of issues with medical fraud here, and with police officers, doing things they're not supposed to do. Drinking on the job, stealing from their department, all kinds of stuff.
Did you want to say something on the podcast?
No, it's okay.
Natalie is talking about farms now for guardianship. Natalie says farms for guardianship. Probate has court appointed attorneys too. Yeah, they do too. There's if you don't have money for a fund, you can get a court appointed attorney. The majority of attorneys on dependency court are worthless. Even police things there. Danny says police are always looking for ways to get women in cars here. What do you mean by that? Police are looking for ways to get women in cars here. Yeah, I know police are bad, but what are you implying? Are you implying they want to rape these women? Is that why they want to get them in their cars?
Well, that wouldn't surprise me. That goes on here in Kentucky a lot.
Really? What are they?
Yeah, they do it a lot. I had a police officer when I was 16 that was taking me to the juvenile detention center that literally was hitting on me the whole time I was in the car. He was an actual jailer here in Kentucky too, and he basically told me, he says, I'd be willing to let you out of the car if you would, And I'm like, hey, I wasn't a dumb girl, so I was like, no, I think I'll just go ahead and go to jail. You can just take me to jail, because I knew that it was just a game that he was playing anyway. But most teenagers would have fell for that. You know what I mean? But I was smarter than the average bear.
Yeah, because they would think they could get off, but he had changed his mind and still take her to jail after he rapes her.
Yeah, of course. And the sad part was he was married. Like, you're really married and you're sitting here trying to sleep with young girls. I'm like, what is the deal with that? So a pedophile in a blue suit.
And he's being paid.
Yeah.
He's doing a job.
Yep. And he was the jailer here in Kentucky.
Oh, wow. That's awful. Going back to my rule number 1. Vincent Davis will do a consultation for 30 minutes for $60. All you have to do is call them at 888-888-6582 and tell them that Bob Pace sent you. And when you speak to Mr. Davis, tell them that Bob Pace sent you. So you call the office and say, "Hi, I'm so and so. I want a consultation with Mr. Davis. Bob Pace told me to call in." So it's important to use my name when you call in. And you can have a consultation with Mr. Davis, and he'll gladly help you out for 30 minutes for $60. He knows how to navigate. He has been fighting CPS for 35 years. His background is in heavy dependency law, and he knows how to get your kids back and how to deal with CPS. In fact, he's a trial attorney, and with all this experience, and you really can't go wrong if you wanted to retain him. But that's something you and him have to talk about. He'll do any of the 50 states, including Northern California. But he is expensive, so if you want to go out of state. But you definitely need to get an attorney, and I strongly recommend that at least talk to Vincent Davis for 30 minutes for $60. You have nothing to lose, and you gain some insight on how to navigate CPS. They're very tricky. I equate CPS as like doing open heart surgery. Nothing is more dangerous than CPS than doing open heart surgery. Open heart surgery is you're dealing with an organ that that will keep you alive. It's a very delicate organ, and one slip could go wrong. Well, CPS is the same way. One slip, and your kids are gone forever. So you need to have an attorney that can navigate, and beat them. Because, I always picture this. There's Alice in Wonderland who's in the backyard, and she falls in the garden and into a rabbit hole, and then she gets out of the in the rabbit hole, and she goes to all these different rooms, and where are you type thing. And so the thing is that they are very corrupt. They say off with your heads. I mean, it's just like the real Alice in Wonderland, CPS is. And I refer you to those pink ladies in Prescott, Arizona in 2011. Excuse me, in 2022. 8 of them decided, yeah, let's get our pink t-shirts. On the front, they emboss the words professional child kidnappers. And on the back, they put, do you know where your children are? Now, that message being portrayed, they walked around Costco and Target and Walmart and all these big department stores. Think about the image that these parents got from seeing that. These social workers, that's the typical social worker. They're empowered to do that. And they were caught, they were fired, as well as the director, but that didn't resolve the issue. Now the department's only has one person to take care of all the calls and neglect and abuse that they're supposed to protect children. So that's one example of many. Now, just a couple months ago, a social worker who works for CPS in Chicago, Illinois, decided to put on her Facebook page an ad. But the ad wasn't today, it was an ad of 1848, over 140 years ago, 10 years before the Civil War started. And she took that ad and put it on her Facebook. And the ad basically said, "Black children for sale." I'm using the word black children because it did say the N-word, and we're not supposed to do that on Facebook. And so it said black children for sale. And she put it in 2024. Not only that, she was black herself. So why would a black social worker, a woman, want to put a horrific ad like black children for sale? I mean, I have no idea why in 2024 a woman would do that. Why? She's a social worker, but that's not what social workers are. They're corrupt, they lie, they cheat. Everywhere I turn, there's always bad examples after bad examples. I mean, there was this one girl on our show that I think her name was Christine, and I forgot what state.
Crystal.
Crystal, that's right. And I think Crystal was from, I want to say Maine, but it's probably not Maine. But anyway, she's from state. And then what happened is that CPS, a male investigator, social worker, came out to the school and wanted to interview one of her children. Didn't tell the parents, didn't do anything like that. Asked the school for permission to be alone with his child. Alone. Now, anytime you work with children, you always at least have two adults at all times because you're going to be accused of molesting that girl or boy. So what did he do? He asked to be alone in a room at the school and then tell her to take her clothes off so he could take pictures.
Which is illegal.
Which is illegal. I'm glad you said that, Faye. And so, he takes this picture of her. She goes home traumatized that a pervert, a pedophile, and he was a pedophile, took naked pictures of her. Her mom, Crystal, got really upset, called the child protection system there, and he was quickly fired. Luckily, they knew that he was bad. But I still don't understand.
Male social workers are not allowed to take photographs of females.
That makes good sense. But anyway, he was trying to, and he got fired. But the mother tried to press charges with the police, and they said they won't do anything about it. So there's nothing they could do about it. And on top of that, there was a man that grew up with them in his childhood. They were really good friends. So he got revenge for his friend being fired and had the mother's son accused her of molesting her son, which is really sad. And because he's already was being accused of molesting his sister. So the whole case is all messed up, but it's sad. It really is sad that, CPS can't control its pedophiles. I mean, it's pretty obvious.
Well, CPS places kids in the home of pedophiles.
Yeah, they do. You're right. You're right. So that's another example. We had the black lady in Chicago, Illinois, with the ad for the children, the black children for sale, and then we have the Prescott, Arizona social workers, 8 of them parading around with the pink T-shirts that they're professional child kidnappers. On the back, they said, "Do you know where your children at?" And a fourth example is my social worker. What she did is that she was testified on the stand, and Vincent Davis, cross-examined her and asked if there's any domestic violence with my wife's sister and husband who was trying to adopt her daughter. And she said, "Oh, no, they're great parents, no domestic violence." Well, then Vincent had all that he needed from the police reports and pulled out report after report of extensive long history of domestic violence. And that social worker looked so bad. And she was angry and she wanted to retaliate. She did. She convinced her daughter to emancipate herself. She birth certificate sealed, she's adopted, she changed the names, and she can no longer see her parents. It was a hard thing to have that. That hurts me a lot. That still hurts me today.
I'm sorry, Bob.
No, it's when you think about children and you think about your daughter, like you never grew up to have Girl Scout experience with your daughter, or maybe, raise a pet, a cat or a dog or a parrot or something. You miss out on all those things. And see, with my daughter, I did a lot of those things with her. And she cared and she loved her father very, very much. And I know she did. So anyway, That's your examples of social workers. They're bad. And I want to move on to rule number 2, which is your paperwork. And I'm really bad at paperwork, and you should have one way of organizing all your things together. I think 8.5 by 11-inch notebook, 3-ring binder, maybe 3 to 6 inches thick, would gather all your stuff. And then what you need to do is you need subject tabs. And so you have one called incidents. And incidents, I think, are the most important thing, because 6 months from now, if you need to look back, you can't remember it. So with every incident, you write down the date, the time, the location, and who was involved. And then you describe the incident, and then you describe the outcome of the incident. So if you don't have the outcome, you can get it later. But 6 months from now, you'll remember that incident. So you need to do that. And you need to organize other tabs, one for your court papers, and arrange them by date and maybe with a log. Arrange one for your parenting classes, another one for your programs, your domestic violence, your drug rehab. You can put all the certificates when you finish things like that. Then you're going to have another one for info about all the contacts you have and how to do certain things, and about ICWA and all the different things there. So that notebook really becomes really important to you, and you have it with you through the life of the case. And really, I wish I had done it. I wish I did. So, but you can also use a pink marker or yellow marker to highlight things that you need to go back to. Rule number 3 is the say no to social workers, and don't let them in your home, and don't let them take your children. There are only 4 ways they can get in your home. One is you give them permission. I think it's 3 ways to get in your home. I'm sorry. One, you give them permission. That lets them in the home. You don't have to. 2 is that there's imminent danger, such as domestic violence, or they're using weapons, or they slam the child against the wall. They can come into the home. If there's imminent danger, they can come into the home. A 3rd way is a court order, where they go to the judge and say, Judge, we need to investigate that home and do the following. So that court order has to address the people concerned and the children's names and what the allegations are. And then it's supposed to give the address of the home, the date and time they can investigate the home, and then lastly, what they can do. So basically, there's only 3 ways to get in your home, and you should never open your home. And I say that because just recently we've had some awful deaths of people opening the door. One was a black Air Force man in Gainesville, Florida, that opened the door when he was talking to his girlfriend on voice time, and the sheriff shot him point blank, 5 shots, and he died there. You can see it on FaceTime. It was terrible. And
Sorry.
His girl there had to go through the emotion of see it live as he dies on FaceTime to her. That must have been a horrific thing there. And it took the police a week before they terminated him, but they never filed any charges, and I think charges should have been filed to him. Then recently, a lady was in the kitchen doing some dishes in confrontation with 2 policemen, and one looked like the Billy Badass of the North, and he was all buffed out and thought he was really the greatest guy in there. So he was cocky, took his gun and blasted the girl's face out with 5 shots. And that's terrible. That's terrible. And he was arrested that night, and now he has to face first-degree murder. Plus, he was fired. So my word of the wise is hide out in your home. Don't answer the door. If you're outside, you can use the method of saying, look, I need to talk to my attorney. I'll get back to you, but I don't want to talk any further. It's yes, no answers, too. Yes, no answers. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, it's yes, no answers. And hide in the house somewhere, and that's fine. and later you can go and see them later because they'll leave their card or something. But you need to get an attorney, and if you don't have one, it's a good time to find one. You need to talk to them, and don't go to their office or surrender your kids. You don't have to surrender kids. There's only 3 ways they can be surrendered. So do not surrender your kids. Hang on to with your dear life. There's also medical trafficking where you have to take your child to the emergency care because they have extreme temperature, they're sick. Be very careful because uh, social workers with CPS hang out at the hospital and they'll take your child. There's weird things they come up with. So you got to be really careful about that in your children. So, and also if you're pregnant, they'll try to take away your child if you test positive. So it's important that you be very careful when you have a baby and where you need to go. But that's my rule number 3, and of course my 4th rule is learn much as you can about the area you live in CPS there. So, for instance, if you live in Richmond, Kentucky, you look up CPS in Richmond, Kentucky, and see what it shows. Then you want to be specific and say the police in Richmond, Kentucky, the CPS in Richmond, Kentucky, and different rules and regulations and stuff there. So those are my 4 rules. Hire an attorney, keep track of your paperwork, say no to police officers, don't let them take your child, and so forth. Okay.
There was a
Go ahead.
There was a black man in Milwaukee here recently that was in a hotel, and the security for the hotel held him down and suffocated him until he died.
Wow.
Yeah, his name was Devontae Mitchell. His family has a lawsuit against that hotel as we speak.
Well, Natalie has said police are always looking for ways to get women in cars here. Okay.
Oh, yeah, they do it here too.
And yes, police are bad. And yes, police do rape. Very, very bad.
Well, not all police are bad, but a majority of them are.
Natalie further says a social worker is around here. She has Beagles stickers on her car. Oh boy. Natalie now looks for the social worker. I know it's hard, but I didn't get to do many things. Sorry. No, Natalie, you're fine. And that's not to worry. That's not to worry. Tori Johnson, welcome back. And she's from Utah, if I remember. Tori Johnson. And she says that's crazy, though. And Natalie says, please, yes, looking to be happy to bother. Medical trafficking is the way that DCF never shows their ID badge. That's bad. They should. Don't answer any questions in the hospital. You're right. Ignore them in the hospital. Ignore them in the hospital. Well, I've pretty much talked for almost an hour. I got a minute left. Tori Johnson, is there any question to ask? Or maybe you could come back tomorrow. We had someone that's going to tonight talk, but they didn't come back. I think it was Tammy from California. She talked this morning. Hey, Shannon's on the line there. Shannon is from Oklahoma. She's the Cherokee. I know you're here, but late. It's okay. I was late too, so it is what it is. So I'm glad you came in and make a note here. I'm just getting ready to sign off. I want to thank Shannon from Oklahoma. She's fighting the Cherokee Indian tribe. It's really corrupt. Natalie is trying to get guardianship, and she's from West Hollywood. Tori Johnson, I forgot what your case was about, but I think you're from Utah. And I have Faye on the line from Richmond, Kentucky, and she's trying to get guardianship of her son. Then I have Forrest and Wendy, who talked really at the beginning. It was really great to hear your case, but I still have some unanswered questions I hope you come back later, but thank you for dropping in. And then who else? That's it. I think I covered everybody, and it's 1 hour, so I'm going to say good night to y'all. See you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. This is Bob Pace signing off, and God bless you, and keep fighting for your kids.